school boards are out of control. So here's our gal Katie to tell us what's going on. Katie Medart.
Good morning. Thank you for coming, and thank you just first of all for all the support. I prepared a statement. In our little corner of Oregon, public school district officials have decided that teachers, on duty or off, can talk about anything they like as long as the subject can't be construed as political or controversial. How hard can that be? Have you seen any news from Oregon lately? Or from any other part of the country for that matter? Can you think of a subject, any subject, that won't be construed by some angry somebody as political or controversial? In effect, district officials are stripping educators of their First Amendment rights, and they decided to launch their destruction of democracy with the two of us. As an assistant principal and science teacher, respectively at North Middle School here in Grants Pass, Oregon, Rachel and I were troubled by a surge of proposed state and federal laws relating to gender identity education. We thought too much of what we were seeing was designed to appease social activists rather than address the reasonable concerns of school children and their parents. We have a front row seat for those concerns every day. We see children struggling with gender identity, hear the questions their parents are asking, and understand the growing confusion caused by the often incomplete, politically driven solutions being forced on families. So, using our own time away from school, we made a video and posted it on social media, expressing our concerns as citizens and launching a grassroots movement, I Resolve, to propose some thoughtful solutions to the problems posed by these new laws, including, 1, providing individual gender-neutral bathrooms and locker room spaces, or redesignating these spaces as anatomical male and anatomical female. 2nd, requiring parental involvement and permission for changing a student's name, preference, or pronoun preference. And finally, protecting staff, students, and parents' constitutional freedom of speech. We didn't expect everyone to agree with our ideas, of course. We expected to start a conversation, engage in dialogue, and begin bringing people together to explore what was best for young people and families of communities. But that's not the way things seem to work in our country today. Instead, some in our area decided to take personal offense. They accused us of starting a hate group, perpetuating bigotry, and being unfit to work with children. Educators, it turns out, aren't supposed to share their beliefs and ideas if they contradict woke Holy Writ. District officials Tommy Blanchard, Danny Huber-Cantola, and Kirk Kolb each knew about the ideas in the I Resolve resolutions prior to us going public and did not dissuade us in any fashion from pursuing them, nor did they give us any guidance or warning that we would violate any school district policy if we spoke about the proposed ideas. In fact, on March 19th, 2021, Rachel emailed Superintendent Kolb a follow-up email to her in-person meeting with him, sending the link to our I Resolve website and, quote, "I appreciate your leadership and willingness to consider this resolution as being one put forward to the board. But these district officials quickly resorted to retaliation and censorship to appease the public critics of I Resolve speech. These district officials placed us on leave. They launched an investigation into our speech and terminated us with a false pretext of board policy violations. Board members had an opportunity to right the wrong done by these district officials. Board member Gary Richardson reminded board member Debbie Brownell, "I find it disconcerting," this is a quote, "that essentially your position is that any information from the investigator is correct and true, even though clearly some of those are point blank just false." Gary performed his civic duty along with board members Todd Neville, Cassie Wilkins, to recognize the paid opinion by the district hired investigator. They took action not to support Superintendent Kolb's recommendation for termination, and we thank them. However, board members Scott Nelson, Cliff Coleman, Debbie Brownell, and Brian DeLagrange did not. DeLagrange made it very clear that he was voting based on his feelings and not the facts presented to him. Coleman had a hard time hearing in the proceedings and admitted he didn't know the differences in facts in my motion and the motion of the prior hearing, even asked to abstain from voting in my hearing. Mr. Coleman said, quote, "I can't get the answer I need, so I'm abstaining." Nelson pointed out to him that members need to vote yes or no on this type of matter. The vote progressed and was 3-3 when it came time to Mr. Coleman to cast the deciding vote. Coleman asked to speak with the district's attorney. During a discussion among the attorneys, Coleman walked over to talk with Chairman Scott Nelson, stating, quote, "I want to get some clarity." After getting clarity from Nelson, who already voted no, attorneys returned the motion. The motion was repeated and Coleman was asked to vote. He said, quote, "I guess I have to say no." In Rachel's hearing, Mr. Coleman was taken aside by the attorney for the district and upon return stated, quote, "I apologize. I thought I could do better. I would like to support the motion that was made by Brian and seconded by Debbie." His vote was the swing vote that terminated both Rachel and I. What's more, while we were on leave, district officials revised school board district policies to further ban free speech. Educators are no longer allowed to take sides on what the district deems controversial while on campus. Privately, we're required to blanket our opinions, even with friends and family, in disclaimers that distance our personal opinions from official district policy. District officials henceforth are to be the arbiters of what's controversial. When they want our opinion, they give it to us. And they believe they reserve the right to punish district employees who don't adhere to the officials' conversational directives. That's a pretty blatant suspension of our constitutional rights of free speech, which is why we filed a lawsuit against the district. It's one thing to ignore our suggestions. It's quite another to say we're not allowed to speak at all and to terminate us for our speech.
Sad.
Educators should be able to expect from their district leaders support of our basic civil rights. If they're not going to give us that, if they're going to punish us simply for speaking out, then it's time to do more than act. It's time to take action. So thank you for being here. We are big proponents of parent and family involvement in the lives of their students, and it has been inspiring to watch as you all, parents, guardians, and families, have spoken up to make your voices heard too. Raising the youth of our community takes a partnership between families, schools, and community members. We are all in this together, and your voice is the most important in standing up for your own children and their education. I'm happy to be here today to stand with you as we speak up to the Grants Pass School Board and say, enough is enough. We need a school board that reflects the values of the community and is willing to make decisions as leaders that protect the freedoms and rights of all students, staff, and families. Thank you.
Great job, Katie. Thank you very much.